Seeking the lostness, kindly entreating, wanderers on the mountain astray. Come unto me, His message repeating, words of the Master, seeking today. Going pointing to Jesus, so that all we that are so, leading them forth in ways of salvation, showing them path to life evermore. this room, Lord, as we all together, because we are people with the heart knowledge that will work on our country and the activity. Lord, as we all gather as an offering, you have handed us to the church in obedience to us. May you bless this person and you don't have to be you increasing that person. Thank you for the rest of the people. We bless it for worship. We bless it often. Before who what you command you to that is something that David, we all assume position of prayer, now time for thanks prayer. Those who can kneel, please kneel.
And have your sign and seal, which makes us yours. We thank you, Lord. We ask that you will forgive us of our sins, for they are many. We ask, Lord, that you will forgive us where we sinned against you, thought, word, consciously or unconsciously. And Lord, we know that you are able to save us. Because it says so in your word, you are able to do this, Lord. Continue to do your further grace. For this we are truly grateful. Lord, the Maker is upon us. Time is fast drawing to a close. We see the signs all around us in the political realm. Lord, we see it. In the religious realm, we see it. In every aspect of life outside of that which you call holy, your church, we see it. Help us, Lord, to, amidst these trials and tribulations that will soon come upon the church, help us, Lord, to keep our eyes stayed on you. Because you have said, he who keeps his mind stayed on you shall be kept in perfect peace. Lord, help us to know our history. Help us to know the history of this church. The history of the church from Genesis until now. For you have said by your prophet that we have nothing to fear in the future, except we forget the way of the Lord has passed. Help us, Lord, in time truly at hand. We ask, Lord, to be with the sick and suffering in life. We ask to be with Al and his family. He has just recently passed away. We ask, Lord, that they will be drawn to a place where they will call you present. In every sad situation, you always take opportunity to herald and to lift up your name. Pray that both will receive it, know that he is a man of God, and he stood for that which is true. And I ask that you will allow your spirit to rest upon him, that you will now take full charge and control of every faculty, every cell, every neural nerve activity in his life as he speaks to us this afternoon. That it will be you speaking, not me. Cover him now with your Holy Spirit. Lord, give up us your Holy Spirit. We need a word from you. We need your Holy Spirit in order to be sealed into redemption. And so now, we give ourselves fully to you. Our mind, our heart, our strength, our soul. Take full charge and control, Lord. We know once we're in you, we shall get the victory. We ask these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
afternoon. I just want to get a reading of this. Is there anyone here who was not in the earlier session? Did you put up your hands when I spoke this morning? Oh, you were all here. Okay, that's good. All right. When I grew up, I was a Buddhist, and in my family, my father's house, there was a family altar. We grew up Taoist Buddhist. And the family altar is an altar in honor of the dead, our ancestors. Well, Yip, right? Yip ancestors. And every day, the eldest son, my father, would give offerings, chopsticks, incense for the family. And so, established in our lives was this sense of the immortal soul in the family altar. And it was a very difficult thing for my father to become Seventh-day Adventist after I did, because it would have meant to him to have abandoned all the ancestors, all the dead ancestors. Right? So in Singapore, you find family altars of people who have converted to Christianity. Oh, they still feel, I think, that the ancestors are still there alive, and they are abandoning the family altar on a tree by a riverside. Like, I want nothing to do with you anymore. So this sense of obligation, of duty in relation to the immortal soul is huge in Singapore and in the East, you know. And as I've said to you, I took up Eastern meditation. And I had no idea that Eastern meditation was to be in touch with the immortal soul. Because when I did Zen is very peaceful, very tranquil, very artistic. I mean, I could tell you Zen stories that would fit right into a Christian church. For example, by the mind, all things arise, and by the mind, all things are overcome. In other words, if you have fear, it's because of the mind. If you have think positively, clearly, perhaps even scripturally, your fear will go away. So things are very beautifully placed. For example, a story of the archer. This is a Zen Buddhist story. A Zen Buddhist story of the archer would be, there's this archer who can pick an apple at 40 paces every time. But one day, a nobleman came and said, Archer, if you do it one more time, here's a bag of gold. And the archer takes aim, pulls his arrow, releases it, and he misses. Why? Because his mind was on the gold, not on the hitting the target. So this stuff is everywhere. I told you the story of the three monkeys, the three wise monkeys. So it is surreptitious. I'm sure you've seen this one. An Indian chief speaks to his son. There is a good wolf and a bad wolf in everyone. And the question was, which wolf dominates your life? The son asked. And the Indian chief said, the one that you feed. If you feed the bad one, who dominates your life, but if you feed the good one, dominate your life. Now, and the graphics that came with this story, when I got it on my WhatsApp, was a yin-yang story, right? A black wolf and a white wolf, right? And a yin-yang thing. Now, the story ends there, where you feed. But the story tells you that one day, good will destroy evil. No, the story keeps telling you that there is good and evil in everybody's life. And it's creepy. So it doesn't get you to the conclusion, the end of the story. Now we can stand here, preachers, and preach, and we give them half-truths. Right? Half-truth. Now half-truth means a little bit of truth, but it can go this way or that way. Now if your mind is carnal, you go you take it that way. If your mind is pure, you take it the right way. But a half-truth is dangerous because it leaves the audience unresolved. Now, in Zen, in Buddhism, it's full of beauty, full of art, poems, and I lived in it. And when I became Seventh-day Adventist, I heard Buddhist stories in the Christian church. And I felt, even as a Christian, that the two paths are close. In fact, agreeing with each other. Until I studied the Bible and Ellen White, and then I realized it. That far apart. The story that I heard in church was there's a man, a strange man in the village, and he had helped the village extensively with flood prevention, with crops, with agriculture. And the village said, man, I want to, this dear friend, I want to give you something to say thank you for all that you've done. And they asked this man, what do you want? And the man said, could you give me a 1-carat diamond? And the village was astounded. This man was so simple in every way of his life. Asked for a 1-carat diamond. This is a Zen story. And they said, well, he's helped us more than that. So let's buy him a 1-carat diamond. They presented it to him. And he looked at it and said, wow, this is great. And he put it into his stone collection. He had every form of stone. Granite, sandstone, whatever. But he didn't have a diamond. And it was just another stone. So this is a Zen story about materialism. This was spoken in my church, This is going back 30 years ago. So what I'm trying to say to you is, the most evil form has beautiful things to offer to the senses. Right? So we've got to be very discerning. Now, when I was Buddhist, I was doing Zen. Like I said to you, karma is good, balance of evil. And in Buddhism, you could do every evil possible, but there's still no sin. You just got to do the balance it out with good. Now, this absence of sin sounds like very beautiful. In fact, just the other day in Swansea, my daughter brought a friend in, and she said, Buddhism is good. And she's Christian, by the way. Buddhism is good because it doesn't give me any guilt. But Christianity is not good because it just makes me feel good. Oh, of course, I said, if Buddhism offers you both good and evil as one, yin yang, and it's one anyway, how can you feel guilty? But I said to her, if we're going to business, both of us, and I said to you, I'm a Buddhist, I believe in yin yang, I believe that there's no differentiation really between good and evil. Would you come into business with me? And then she said, but in her mind, Christianity is guilty. Makes you guilt-ridden, drives you with guilt. And so I told her my personal story. So there I was, years ago, doing Zen. No sense of guilt. It was tranquil, it was bliss, it was beautiful. Full of romantic stories. Right? And then I heard my friends, good friends of mine, childhood friends, were Christians, drag me to listen to a preacher for 3 days. Christian preacher. And he preached on the cross for 3 days. And of course, I had never heard about the cross. And I had never sensed this great love of God. Now, you have to understand, we Eastern meditators meditate. We actually close down our frontal lobes, our ACC. And that's where love is. The strength of love. We are given tranquility and bliss and, addiction and beta wave, alpha waves and so forth. But there's no love. There's no strength of love because the ACC is down. But we've got all the tranquility and bliss, and we become passive. And then this preacher preached on 3 days on the cross. And then he said, whose hands deserves to be nailed? Our hands. Not his hands, but Christ. Jesus' hands were nailed. And because I saw the love of God, at that moment, his love allowed me to see my sins. And I felt my hands deserve to be nailed. Because I've done evil, I've stolen, I've hurt people. So my hands deserve to be nailed. But I only saw my sin in the context from the strength of the love of God. The love of God gave me power to confront, to face my own sins. And this preacher made it worse. He said, whose feet deserves to be nailed? And I thought to myself, not his feet, mine. Because I have been wayward, I've given hurt, I've run away from responsibility. I've done so many things that people, and yet, when I was meditating, it was no sin. So the love of God is transformed. It helps us show us who we truly are and who we need to know who we are. And to know our own sins in the love of God is not guilt-ridden. It's not driven by guilt, because it is driven by love. And without the cross, I would still be a tranquil, peace-loving, sentiment-loving meditator. And I could be sitting in a Christian church and still think Buddhists are good people, doing good things. And they do a lot of good things. So there is this beautiful, forceful Christianity, the force of which is love. And Ellen White said is immeasurable, is infinite, is incomparable. And that was shown into my life. And after that, I came into Seventh-day Adventism. Now, Seventh-day Adventism is a challenge because there's health reform, rest reform, the uplifting of man and his duty to other men. There's a 3 angels message which you begin with. But to look at these things in the love of God is, I think, what we need. We need to be love-driven. How we need to relate to people, relate to the world. And so I am so privileged to be amongst our people and to have that truth. And to be driven to another level of love. Now, I want to say this, the 3 angels message, and that's where we are focusing on in this talk. And I've said to you, the 3 angels message has 3 messages. The first message is righteousness by faith. It's sanctification. That is the crux of the message. The 2 others, the second and third, are warnings. Without the first having an impact on our life, changing us, the impact, the meaning, the seriousness, the gravity of the second and third are not very apparent. It is when we have the first, and it has changed our lives. And it encompasses Sabbath because it asserts it as our sign of sanctification, God Himself. And that's where our unity is. And Hebrews 2:11 says this. If there were, 60 of us here in the room, Hebrews 2:11 says this. For both He who sanctifies and they who are sanctified are all of one. For which He is not ashamed to call them brethren. Now that's the only basis
of unity is to be one in God. Right? But the unity that we see happening today at large, interfaith unity, is not on that. It is not about sanctification. In fact, if I quote Ellen White, they will sanctify sin. They will absolutize a day which is not the right day. So this first message has to be taken into our heart, our individual heart, before the second and third message makes any sense to ourselves. And when it's taken into the heart, the first message, then we are sanctified as one. Then we move as one. And that message can go to the world. Now, so, the three angels' message, the first message is victory over sin. Victory over generalities, non-differentiation. The second and third, the one in Babylon and the mark, is about the sanctification of sin. So they clash. Now, Daniel 12, okay, Daniel 12. In Daniel 12, you notice it was sealed, right? The book was sealed. Now, when was it opened? Now, you folks, I'm sure know this, because I'm told that Talbot is a present truth church. But let's repeat it and make it more, bring it to fresh to the mind, right? Daniel 12 was sealed. But Daniel 10, Revelations 10 opens it. An angel comes, one hand with a small open book. And with one foot upon the land and one foot upon the sea. And then in Revelations 13, it introduces the sea beast and the land beast. So this message that we have, that was closed, that was reopened in Revelations 10, is about the angel coming to take possession of his land, to give us victory, that we may participate in this victory, to take his possession away from the sea beast and the land beast. And this message is glorious. But it takes a people who have that conviction. Yeah? It takes a people who have had that first righteousness by faith message right into their hearts and their life. Now, I have been involved in health work for more than 20 years, perhaps 25 years. We built this place called Adventist. We've got 36 bed space. We've got sometimes at least two, but 3 medical doctors. We've got students, young students from China, from the surrounding areas, sometimes 15, 20 students. We teach Bible and medical missionary work. We've got 40 staff, and everybody lives up on this hill. And it's quite a wonderful community. And so every month, we in 4 weeks, we open 3 weeks. And a lot of people come. And every month, in the 3 weeks, we see at least 60, 70 to 100 people. And a lot of them are Christians. And so me and my wife, we're from Singapore. Malaysia is up north. The health center is there. For 3 hours drive. When the Singaporeans go there and they come back, we reconnect with them. And we study with them. We feed them, we do more cooking demo, and then we chat, and then we study the Bible. So we've had the opportunity of mixing with a lot of Sunday Christians. And I am so concerned because I'll give you an example. We had a meeting with a group of Sunday Christians, about 20 people from various denominations. These are secular leaders, they're not pastors. And when we went in, they were studying the 7 churches of Revelation. And one of them would present for a whole hour and a half, and with questions and answers from the rest. And as they presented, all they presented in relation to Revelation, the 7 churches, was about their personal devotion, their personal life, their leadership. It's all about the individual. But there was another guy and me, and we asked a big picture question. Because one of the presenters said, "Oh, what is God stirring you up to do?" We asked the question. And it was more about, evangelism and one-to-one and so forth and so forth. And he asked, and I asked, what about the bigger picture? Where is this institution of evil that we are should be stirred to speak against? And the question just died with him, the presenter. No answers. Neither did the 15 or 20 people answer that question. So in some Sunday churches, they only see their individual salvation. They do not see an institutionalized global. And what concerned me was this. In my own church, it's happening. Everything is happening around the world. The papacy is rising so strong, uniting. Well, Trump is going to strike the Middle East deal. Trump and State Department is championing religious liberty. And the Catholic News Agency said that the U.S. State Agency had appointed them as leaders in religious liberty. Although Mike Pompeo, who is Secretary of the State Department, did not say it, but the Catholic News Agency said it. So all this is happening, and in my church, not a whimper. And it's all about Christ. All about Christ. All about, we have a relationship. It's good, right? It's good. But what kind of a relationship? Because the growth of evil and the institution of evil is lost in the whole picture. Now, Daniel 8:14, and the sanctuary shall be cleansed. When will it be cleansed? How long? And it's described as a closing work, right? Day of Atonement. And the health work is described as a closing work. And I've always wondered to myself, I'm in health work, what does it mean, closing work? Does it mean that at the end of time, millions, hundreds of thousands of people suddenly come to the sanitarium? That's the closing work and will evangelize. But it occurs to me that the closing work is the closing work in the heavenly sanctuary. It is the closing work in our body temple. It is health reformation. It's spiritual reformation. Okay. Now, this place that we've started called Annan is a shining star in the East, in Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia. People know us. And I went to Philippines to speak. And there is a huge Seventh-day Adventist hospital in one of the islands called Bacolod. And Bacolod said to me, we want your Annan name on a health center, and here is the land and the chalets and the swimming pool, and we're not using it. We want to establish an Annan here. And all we want is your name and your training, and we'll give you 25% of the takings. Now, they were chasing me letter after letter. Now, we don't know them, they were so far away. So I said, well, we don't know you. What if you took our name and you didn't do the right thing? Right? So I wrote a letter and said, we are not only for health evangelism, we are for health reformation. And we think that Ellen White's work is definitive. Now, he was chasing me repeatedly, day after day, with emails saying, let's work. When I sent this letter out, It was a lapse of like 4 weeks. Because they had to think whether the health work is evangelism or reformative. Okay? They had to figure out whether Ellen's White work is definitive. So, where we go with our message and how we apply it is so very crucial. So I think the health work is the closing work because it's reformative in our lives. And until it is reformative in our lives, it is only then it should be evangelistic. There's no point bringing people in if we are not reformed. Right? I mean, Dr. Clarence Ng is going to speak in one of the Swansea churches. And we've had doctors and good spiritual speakers come to Singapore. They speak, a big crowd is drawn, new people come in. But our own church members are not in a position to help them with health. We need a doctor, a well endowed with credentials to come draw them, and we can't engage them. Right? So the strength of a church is in our people that they can support the values of the church. Now, why is the immortal soul so dangerous? Because it suggests to us that when we are born and when we grow up, even doing evil, there is the inner divine, the immortal soul. So it's a mixture. So if we don't differentiate, we can be Seventh-day Adventists or Sunday Christians or whoever. And this idea of the yin-yang in my life dominates my past, right? So we can sit as Christians, resisting sanctification, not differentiating, not discerning, and we become yin-yang Christians. Isn't that true? Yeah. So this is where our message is completely different. And I mentioned this earlier in the talk. Now, pantheism. Pantheism becomes panentheism. The alpha becomes heresy, becomes the omega heresy. And it's a train. It's connected. It matures. The alpha is pantheism. The omega is panentheism. Because the omega, as Ellen White said, is the logical conclusion of the alpha. Now, this train is moving rapidly. It's powered by high-level agencies like Interfaith Catholic Church, the United Nations. It's powered by Yoga International Day. It's powered. And in early writings, Ellen White had a vision of a train of many carriages. And in the train were people from all over the world, all kinds. And the conductor was Satan himself. And this train was speeding towards perdition. And it just tells me about this meditative thing. And it's not the only thing. We are drawn into so many deceptions. Beautiful, sentimental deceptions, seductive deceptions that's going to draw us and keep us on this trip. Okay, I want to talk about Daniel. Daniel the man. Now you all know Daniel as courageous, Daniel's lion's den. But when you read the Bible, he trembled, he feared. The more he thought about his visions, the worse it got. Right? Now, why was it so? And the reason why it is so is similarly affects us. But then, in Daniel 10, he said, I understand. Now, God, speak to me, because you've strengthened me. Now, what happened in Daniel 10? Go home and read it. Let's just go through the motions. Daniel knew the prophecy from Jeremiah that Jerusalem and the temple will fall. And when he was in the fall, now it's traumatic for a young man knowing the prophecy, seeing it fall, and being part of the fall. He was enslaved, he was frustrated, he was brought into Babylon to serve. And yet, because he knew the prophecy, he kept the faith. And he was able to impart and convert Nebuchadnezzar. And so he went through a fall. He experienced it himself, the trauma of it. But the vision that was given to him by Gabriel said, Jerusalem and the temple will be raised again. And after 490 years, it will fall again because of disobedience. Right? So, a disobedient Israel fell during Daniel's time. And in prophecy, he was given the vision, it will fall again. Now that is trauma. And so he said, the more I thought about it, and the word he used is actually meditate. I can't remember the word. Cogitations, right? Cogitations is meditation. So the more he meditated, the more he cogitized over this, the worse he felt. He trembled, he sneezed, and then more so in Daniel 12, he was Daniel 10. The first fall was because of disobedience. God brought Babylon. The second one, which happened in AD 70, was also because of disobedience. I mean, you could accept a fall because of disobedience. But at the end, after 2300, in Daniel 12, it was told to him that it is the holy people of God who will be scattered. Not the disobedient, the holy. Now, if there are 50 of us here, and if you're all holy, we'll be scattered. To be scattered at that point in time, in this point of time, is to be holy. Now, that is also traumatic. So and we know the three angels' message equally is troubling. People say it's fearful. That's not all about it. You can't be evangelistic because you push people away, right? So what happened to Daniel in Daniel 10? He said, now I understand. And then he said, Lord, speak to me. Because you have strengthened me to understand, to embrace this message. And what was told to him was, Gabriel and Michael fights for you against the king of Persia and Grecia. When we know right in our hearts, deep in our hearts, that God fights for us on our behalf, then we are strengthened. And the words he used was that Gabriel said was, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto you. Be strong, yea, be strong. And then Daniel said, I was strengthened. Let my Lord speak. You have strengthened me. So it must be established in our hearts that God truly is on our side against principalities and powers. That a time has come into our lives, into our church life, where the events are fast fulfilling with rapidity, tipping over with rapidity. And here is when we must keep that which was sealed open. The message is God is going to come back and take back from the sea beast and the land beast that possession which is his, and the people which is his. And God will do everything and fight against principalities and powers on our behalf. So it is a great message, a glorious message that's given to us. And we are a unique people with that blessing, with that knowledge. And this is the time to keep the message strong, to keep it open, not just for ourselves, to embrace the strength of God who works for us for the whole world. In Revelation 14, it speaks of the everlasting gospel. Now, the gospel makes Christians, right? The everlasting gospel, the opening of the little book, created and developed a people of God, Seventh-day Adventists. And as they resolve intricacies and complexities, and as the picture became clearer, they became the message. They are the everlasting gospel. So the three angels' message, the everlasting gospel, made Seventh-day Adventism. That is the message which the 144,000 gives. The everlasting gospel created them, and they strengthened, and in turn the spiral makes the 144,000. And of the 144,000, Revelation 14 says, they are the first fruits. In other words, they are the first fruits of God and the Lamb. And in other words, the first fruits are what is offered to God of the harvest, and then the rest of the harvest takes place. Now, without them, my father, who became a Seventh-day Adventist, won't be resurrected. In Revelation 14, it says, after talking about the first fruits, about 144,000, it mentioned the sickle of the harvest 6 times. So much as we may not be, and I hope we will, be in that specific group of 144,000 when Jesus comes, we have every obligation and inspiration and desire to carry on that message, the everlasting gospel, so that the first fruits are formed. In Hebrews 11:40, it says, and this was Paul speaking to his scattered people, to his persecuted, and he enumerated the people of faith, from Abraham to Moses and Rahab and so forth. And he said, these people of faith have not received the promise. In other words, the New Jerusalem, the new earth. They have not. And they, the people of faith of the past, and they to whom Paul was speaking, he said, they without us will not be made complete. So we are all in this line, this lineage of remnant seed. From Eden, from Adam and Eve, who had Abel, who was killed by his brother, but then he was taken over by Seth. And so forth, and so forth. And here we are with that message. This is a glorious message, which we need to pass on whether we are in the 144,000 before Jesus Christ comes or not. So, we are a blessed people with a blessed lineage. Was that a question you had?
Yeah. Basically, based upon what you're saying there, meditation that you say that you want to put inside the obsolete Christianity, right? If we take on this meditation, then our children, as you said, who will become Seventh-day Christians, who don't have the pure doctrine, the original 44, so just for speaking sake, the original 44 not formed, therefore those from way down the line can complete as you said.
Yes.
So if we now as people living the truth, know the truth, not living the truth, how are you going to have truth to live to make it from your heart if you're not a part of it?
Yes. But it doesn't just apply to meditation.
Yeah.
It applies to our whole truth.
Yeah.
Yes. And meditation is just one, but a significant one that wants to blunt the message. Okay? Because it possesses sentiments of seductive sentiments of non-differentiation, which is uniting the whole world. So our truth is specific, it's clear, it's definitive. It's the trumpet must give a clear sound. That's who we are. Lesson. Now I was taken out of meditation into, I thank God I was not taken out of meditation into Christianity in general, but into a church that had this truth. Now I said I was meditating and it was all about oneness with the universe and enlightenment. I never suspected it was the immortal soul. I never thought about it until I read Ellen White. And this woman has insight, has inspiration. We must pay attention to her writings because it defines the moment we are in. It defines the nature of what's happening. And this is sheer, sharp discernment that we need. So we must pass this baton on. Even though I'm 70, I hope Jesus comes before I pass away. But I find this message so precious that it behooves me to pass it on as far as I possibly can. And then at least I know that I'm regarded as part of that lineage, a part of that remnant of God that passes on the everlasting gospel that takes shape and gives rise to the first fruits unto the Lamb. That's our privilege. Now, Ellen White was asked this question, I think it was 1888, when Righteousness by Faith came out. And they had heard the Three Angels message before. It was clarifying to a certain degree. And when they heard 1888, they asked her, is this the same as the Three Angels message? Is this Righteousness by Faith the same in verity? And she said, yeah, it is the same. Now, when we preach that message, if we preach it wrong and frightens people, we've done it wrong. But if we just give the Sunday message, which is love, 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 without the three angels message in context, it is also wrong. The only right way to do this is in the same breath with which we give the three angels message. There is righteousness by faith, there is love, and there is a warning. And that's doing it right. I don't know. I've been a SDA for 30-odd years. I don't know if we have done it right or wrong. But I know from my Singapore context, my Eastern context, that we have done it. And this is a timeless issue. This is the message of victory. This is the message of God coming back for his people against the sinful standard. So how are we to embrace this in our lives? It has to be just like that. To be so convicted that God works for us against principalities and powers, that we may then say in our hearts, Lord, speak now. Yeah, because you have strengthened me. Speak now. So we must give this message clearly, lovingly, with a heart of love, a heart of gold. It is not, all we got to do is have a relationship and we just love people into the church, right? Yes, there must be truth. But the truth must also be mingled with that love. And that, to be successful in that, we need God in our lives. We need to know God's heart. And that, I think, is where it all is, to know God's heart. Now, Abraham was asked to sacrifice the promised one, the promised son, his Isaac. And it was only in obedience and in faith that when he raised his knife to the highest, that he knew the heart of God. He knew the love, the intensity of the love of God in sacrificing his own son, Christ. And that was a precious knowledge for him in the heart. He knew the heart of God. David, when he uttered the same words as Christ on the cross, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He knew the heart of God because he did right and yet was hunted. To be doing right and yet feel the trauma is the heart of God. And it was the sense of what Christ did. He took our sins and did the right thing. And he said, my God, I'm doing the right thing. Why hast thou forsaken me? And it will be our cry, I think, because the holy people will be scattered. You've been in church, you've read the Bible, you've given your life, and yet you are scattered. And remember this. In that moment, you're knowing the heart of God, so that he becomes your strength in that moment. Jacob. Now, the time of Jacob's trouble is described as our time of trouble. Right? Now, that night of wrestling was very strange. You remember, he was going back to meet Esau, and he knew Esau was coming at him. He was afraid. He separated his family to the right side of the other side of the river. He was alone. He was in the dark. He prayed. He prayed for protection. But instead, a hand was placed on his shoulder, and he thought it was the enemy. And he turned around and he wrestled all night. He didn't have the victory. And then when he recognized whom he thought the enemy was, he knew it was Christ, the angel. And then Christ at that point, moved to depart and broke his hip. Strange sequence of events. But what in that event, Jacob knew the heart of Christ. Why? When Christ took our sins, the Father moved to depart from him. When Jacob recognized Christ and wanted a blessing, Christ moved away. But yet, by faith, by that strength of faith, Jacob turned on. And that is the faith we need, the faith of Christ. Come on, ask for a blessing. And because he turned on, he prevailed over God and man, and he was given a new name. That's what we are all waiting for. And that everlasting gospel will form 144,000, and we will get a new name. So may we all be so blessed as to know that we are in the line of lineage of the remnant. A blessed message has come down through the ages, made alive by Ellen White, made alive by our church. We must embrace that blessing, for it will strengthen us for our work for others. A spiritual work, a supernatural work, because the latter rain will fall and will empower us. So may God bless us all today and forevermore. message, make it part of our lives. And I'm so glad to be able to come here to speak. Because I've spoken in large churches like Loma Linda, Chinese church. And when I finished speaking on meditation, they did not know how to ask a relevant question. And it's of great concern to me because the questions tell me what is in your heart, how you see these things. And I'm so glad that when I spoke here, questions were coming up and they were the right questions in the right context. So may God bless this church. God bless us all. So how do we end?
He is the patience of the saints. Are we alive? May we all stand and sing hymn number 625. 625.
Pressing on the upward way, to heights amazing every day. Still praying as I onward bound, Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, lift me up and I shall stand, by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lord, has grown desire to stay where thou sunrise and days escape. Though some may dwell where needs are found, I pray my aim is higher ground. Lord, lift me up and I shall stand, my faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I want to live above those roads, those Satan's gods that me are hurled. My faith has brought the joyful sound, the song of saints on higher ground. Lift me up and I shall stand, by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. I want to scale the utmost heights and catch a glimpse of glory bright. But still I pray till heaven I found. Lord, lead me unto higher ground. Lord, lift me up and I shall stand, by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Lift me up and I shall stand, by faith on heaven's stable land. A higher plane than I have found. Lord, plant my feet on higher
Our Father who's in heaven, plant our feet, yes, on higher, much higher ground than we possibly could know or imagine. So raise us, Lord, to see, to fix our eyes upon Jesus, that you may raise us from glory from this day forth. We pray in Jesus' name.
Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit